Mock draft time here on Falcons Today as the Athletics' Dane Brugler dropped a 7-round full mocky for Atlanta. And I want to run through pick by pick with you all and give you my analysis and reaction to the picks that Dane Brugler made. So without further ado, let's get right into the fun. First pick in round number 1 for the Falcons is, no surprise, Dallas Turner, Alabama's edge rusher. Here's what Brugler had to say on this selection for the Falcons. There is a good chance we see something this year that has happened just once, 2021, in the Super Bowl era. No defensive players selected in the first 7 picks of the draft. If that comes to fruition, the Falcons will have their choice of the top defensive player on their board at number 8, and I don't think many people will be surprised if that is Turner. And I know that Dallas Turner is not a new name to any of us, and we have spent the entire offseason talking about Turner, Latu, and Verse, and which one of those 3 guys is the best pick for Atlanta at number 8. And he has been the most frequently mocked player to a team other than Caleb Williams to the Bears. In fact, I think we may have more mock drafts of Dallas Turner to Atlanta than Caleb Williams to Chicago. In fact, I could also just say, the Falcons draft starts at pick 43. Because it feels like it's so obvious who they're going with at pick number 8. So, Turner last year for the Crimson Tide, good production, great production. 14.5 tackles for loss, 10 sacks. Now, on the last graphic, we pointed out that, 9 out of 14 games, he had 3 or fewer pressures. So that's a concern, right? And maybe that's something that Atlanta really does some deep diving on. But to me, I just don't think they're going to look past the physical traits and the production that met with it. Plus, he was always kind of in the shadow of Will Anderson. What does he look like when he's the clear-cut number 1 pass rusher for just more than 1 season like he was in Tuscaloosa? But I am definitive when I say Dallas Turner is a Falcon. He's a Falcon. Dallas Turner is a fucking bird now. I don't know what else to say. I will be doing a naked lap if Atlanta passes on Dallas Turner. It just seems like we know 2 things about the draft. Caleb's a Bear, and Dallas is a Falcon. Seems like a done deal to me. So are you excited for Dallas Turner? Give me a yes or give me a no. I'm excited. Dallas Turner is not one of my favorite prospects in this draft. If I was making the calls, I would pick Rome Odunze. Because I just think Rome Odunze is that much higher of a prospect. But I just think that the Falcons are going to yo-yo from being offensive-minded drafting the last few years, like the last, 3 straight years of going offense in rounds 1, tight end, wide receiver, running back. Last year they trade up to get Matthew Bergeron in round 2. So a lot of resources in free agency this year going to the offense. Kirk Cousins, Darnell Mooney, Charlie Warner, trading for Rondale Moore. Now I think they try and swing back to the defensive side, and they go Dallas Turner at number 8. Moving on to round number 2 in Brugler's mock, he had Atlanta picking Michael Hall Jr., the Ohio State defensive tackle, at 43. I'm going to pause on my reaction to this after I give you the scouting report, and I'll let you kind of come up with your own opinion. 6'2", 299 pounds, so not one of the bigger DTs, but man, does he move fast. He's got a great first step. He's got an excellent quickness to his game. He is slippery. Athletically, he moves much faster than near 300-pound human beings should move. Now, unfortunately, the con and the reason why he's in that round 2 to round 3 conversation, despite being so athletically gifted for a near 300-pound human being, is the production was underwhelming last year and just not a whole lot of consistency from week to week in Columbus. And if any Buckeyes fans are watching right now, please chime into the comment section below. Tell me if I'm right or tell me if I'm wrong, but that was my takeaway when watching Michael Hall. I think it's too early to make this pick at 43. I think the lack of consistency over the last 2 seasons, injuries are something to monitor as well, but for a guy that went from having 4.5 sacks and 7.5 tackles for loss in 2022 to taking a bit of a step back in some ways, like the pressures went up and that's important, But I just don't think at pick 43, Hall, who is just a little bit too much of a gamble, is worth the pick here. Top 50, I'm looking for more proven commodities. I've never been on the train of you just always take the athletic guys. If we were making USA's track team, sure, let's do that. We're not. We're putting together a football team. So I'm looking for football players. And I think there are better options at 43. Could Atlanta stand to add to their defensive line, like interior specifically? Sure, Grady Jarrett's coming off a torn ACL. He's 30 years old. David Onyemata's no spring chicken. You've got Zach Harrison and James Smith-Williams kind of battling for that last starting role on the defensive line. I've got no issue with resupplying the trenches here. I don't like the pick at 43 of Michael Hall. I'm sorry, Michael Hall, if you're watching. Moving on to round 3 now at 74. We get a Georgia Bulldog going just west to downtown Atlanta, and that is Kamari Lassiter. 5'11", 186 pounds, and here's where the fun ends. Ran a 4.64 40-yard dash. If you're not a familiar viewer or frequent viewer of the channel, I won't beat a dead horse here, but I think there are certain position groups that you should really value athletic testing, and others you don't have to value it as much. Cornerback is one of them. It's already difficult enough to play cornerback in the NFL when the rules are stacked against you and the wide receivers know where they're running and you have to go step for step with them. Doing that at a 4.64 40-yard speed is going to make life a whole lot more difficult. But despite that, it's not like Kamari was an issue for Kirby Smart last year. 2-year starter, 15 pass breakups, an interception. He's known for his extremely high IQ. And when I think about Raheem Morris, the guy is just such an intelligent person. I think he wants to find that level of intelligence in his draft picks as well. And so for that reason, I think Lassiter just screams Raheem Morris type of player. So I like the value of Lassiter at 74 because at that point in the draft, you're not finding a whole bunch of great athletes anymore. And I think what we saw in Athens for a while was the guy can play football. He may not be the best athlete on the field. He may not be the fastest, but he's going to put himself in good positions to be successful. So at 74, I'm willing to roll the dice on a guy that sure may not be fastest on the field, but that never stopped him in the SEC, and I think he can hold his own in the NFL. Last year for Georgia, 8 pass breakups, 3.5 tackles for loss, and 37 tackles altogether. Atlanta's cornerback room definitely needs some reinforcements. Clark Phillips is entering a big sophomore season. He ended the year essentially as a starter, replacing Jeff Okudah, but I don't know if Atlanta's ready just to anoint him a starting cornerback. So you bring in some competition beyond veterans like Antonio Hamilton and Kevin King. Moving on to the next third-round pick, thank you, Jacksonville. Devontez Walker, 79th overall out of UNC. So let's talk about the former Toledo Rocket and then the UNC Tar Heel. 6'1", 193 pounds, 4.36 40-yard dash. I know I just spit out a bunch of numbers, but just try to let that sink in for a moment. Good size and great speed, that combination doesn't exist in every single draft class. In fact, I give him the DK Metcalf comp because he is the first player since DK Metcalf to be 6'1" or taller, 190 pounds or bigger, and run a 4.36 40-yard dash. So if you're looking for a great athlete, here's your man. And I think that's why he's going to be a day 2 pick, but he probably won't be a round 2 selection because he only had one season of Power 5 football with UNC, and he played in only 8 games, FUNCAA. But in those 8 games with Drake May, the two put together a really good connection. Nearly 700 yards. That's an average of 17 yards of reception, by the way, and 7 touchdowns. So like Lassiter, is Tez Walker someone I'm going to pound on the table for being a surefire thing? No, but you're not going to find a whole lot of surefire things in round 3. But I do think, like the opposite of Lassiter, the traits here, they kind of have me fired up. Like, if you can get DK Metcalf in round 3, and by the way, DK Metcalf was the final pick in round 2, I'm pretty sure. We're not very far off from where DK went. And DK had a kind of similar-ish profile coming in. Not apples to apples. He was an Ole Miss, but I'm willing to bet the 76 overall pick on a guy that could have the upside of a DK Metcalf. And then add in the fact that I think Atlanta needs to add a wide receiver in this draft. You bring in Zach Robinson to be your play caller. You bring in Kirk Cousins from Kevin O'Connell, and now the OC and the quarterback have one similar parent in their family tree, which is Sean McVay, who loves using his 11 personnel. You're going to have a lot of 3 wide receiver sets. You don't even have a reliable 4th receiver. Like, Kadarius Hodge comes back for special teams, in my opinion. So if you have an injury to one of those top 3 guys, and those top 3 guys, by the way, I don't think make one of the best wide receiver rooms in football. I think it's very much in Atlanta's interest to add a receiver in the first 2 days of the draft. Now, what's a bigger need for the Falcons? Cornerback or wide receiver? If there are 2 players available for Atlanta at 43 or in round 3 that have identical grades, and the only difference is one's a corner, one's a wide receiver, which one do you want Atlanta to pick? For me, I would lean wide receiver. If you're going to spend $180 million on Kirk Cousins, you better make it successful. And Drake London's great. I like Darnell Mooney. I'm excited about Rondale Moore, but it's really just because they were able to get something for Desmond Ridder. I'd rather see them add a wide receiver. All right, moving on here to the rest of our mock draft. Starting in round 4 now on to day 3, where the Falcons go with offensive lineman Delmar Glaze out of Maryland with pick 109. So let's get to know Mr. Krispy Kreme here. 6'4", 315 pounds. He was a 3-year starter for the Terrapins. Began at right tackle, and then, like usual, best offensive lineman in college football, made the switch to left tackle to protect the blind side. Now, he projects to be a guard in the NFL, and we've seen Atlanta go down that path before. Bergeron, most notably, Syracuse left tackle, bumped him to left guard. When we're in round 4 of the draft, you're still finding some pretty good players, but you're definitely looking for players that have some special teams upside to their game, along with just the overall hope of developmental here. So I think the offensive line selection is not a bad one, especially last year when you saw Matthews and Caleb McGarry. They kind of showed some unusual injury tendencies. So reassuring the offensive line sounds like a very safe move to me. Now, before we get on to the rest of the mock draft today, speaking of Kirk Cousins and this offensive line, if you want to go get a brand new Falcons jersey, go to chatsports.com/Cousins and get yourself a brand new Kirk Cousins jersey. Wear it to week 1, wear it to your first tailgate, wear it over the summer, but make sure you've got the best and the newest Falcons gear by going to chatsports.com/Cousins. I put that link for you in the comments and description of today's video. On to round number 5, where Atlanta goes with a second Georgia Bulldog. This time it's safety/star DB Tykee Smith. So 5'10", 202 pounds. He started his career off at West Virginia. Then he transferred to Athens. He was a starter his final season for Kirby Smart. Led Georgia in tackles for loss, and interceptions. And I think you could ask some diehard Bulldogs fans some trivia about some of the great defensive leaders they've had, and they've had a lot of really good ones the last half decade. And he quietly sticks out as someone that doesn't get a lot of recognition, but has a lot of production. So in round number 5, I'm willing to take a chance on a Georgia Bulldog who led the team in 3 different statistical categories. That, to me, signals this is worth the chance alone. In round 6, the Falcons go running back this time with Marshall Thundering Herd Rasheen Ali. Here's what Brugler wrote specifically about this selection. The Falcons have a terrific 1-2 backfield combination in Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier. But Ali would be an outstanding addition because of his big play potential when given space to operate. It's day 3. My motto is best player available and special teams upside. And then you toss in that Ali led the FBS in 50-plus yards from the line of scrimmage a season ago. I'm willing to roll the dice on someone like that in round number 6. And then to round out this mock draft, maybe it's my favorite pick of all, best for last. It's my sweet prince from the University of Tennessee, Joe Milton. I am not going to listen or read any comments that have any slander towards Joe Milton. He had the worst wide receiver core in the SEC last year, probably after Vanderbilt. But still, he put some balls in buckets. And I'm not going to go name by name here, but certain guys that rhyme with the word eaten could not catch a football. So Joe Milton, yes, it's very low-hanging fruit to say he's got a rocket of an arm, but he can't find anyone downfield. He's going to be a tight end. This is someone that I'm willing to stake half of my reputation on, that he's going to be more than just a Felipe Franks. Now, Milton is not a perfect quarterback. I can recognize that. And he's definitely not an elite processor. And what did Raheem Morris say when he was asked about what he looks for in a quarterback? An elite processor. So it's round 6. Beggars can't be choosers. But if Atlanta's going quarterback, I think Milton could be fun because he definitely needs some coaching and needs some work on his accuracy for sure. Like, he did miss some layups here and there. But he's got a bazooka of a right arm. So the preseason games are going to be must-see TV with Joe Milton, but I don't think this is the target Atlanta goes after. So to wrap up this mock draft, let's run through it once more. Dallas Turner, then Michael Hall, then Kamari Lassiter. 3 straight defensive picks before they go. Devontez Walker from UNC. Then Maryland's left tackle, Delmar Glaze, then Tykee Smith, then Rasheen Ali, and then Joe Milton to conclude the 8th and final pick. So how would you grade Dane Brugler's mock draft? A, B, C, D, or F? To me, I would give it a B to B minus. That 43rd overall pick, I just think has like Marlon Davidson written all over it. And I'm not super jazzed up about it. And you're already kind of reaching on Dallas Turner, which I think we all are accepting is just a result of when you've got no edge rushers. You got to take one maybe a little bit earlier than where they are projected to go per the big board rankings because of need. So I'm just not super stoked about really the Hall selection. And I know that's like really nitpicky. We're talking round 2 here, but that's why I give it a B to B minus. All right. That will do it for us on today's show. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed our mock draft or our mock draft reaction, if you will, to the Athletics, make sure to like, subscribe, comment on the video, and I'll see you all later.